So one of the things that I want to talk about is the overemphasis of lengthy work experience. I'm really proud of the work that I did straight out of college, but none of it's on my resume. And that's because it's not relevant to what I do today. Now, if your experience isn't relevant to what you want to do next, but your earlier experience is, then you obviously still need to list that, but you want to get creative in how you list it. So let's say the last time you've been in the role was in the early 90s. Well, then maybe you have an additional experience section where that's captured, where you pivot the formatting so you don't necessarily have to have the dates included. Now, in this person's example, additional context wasn't needed. He's been in the same industry, had the same type of roles. And so you'll actually see that I went back 20 years on his resume because he's worked for some major big player organizations within the Chicagoland area. But in his additional experience section, I just listed the title and then the company name. So there's a saying in the resume writing industry that content is king and formatting is queen. Modern resume incorporates trends and formats that supports current hiring trends, like reading resumes on a mobile device. Recruiters are in so many meetings that I can guarantee you while we're waiting for the next meeting to start, we're looking at your resume on the mobile device. And if I can't read it because you submitted a Word document and the formatting on it comes all jumbled because it's not a PDF, well, how am I supposed to look at it? So I'm just going to move on to the next one. And I might or might not have the time to relook at your resume. And like I said, most recruiters spend about 7 seconds on the initial skim. People can argue that number all day. The fact the number doesn't matter. It's just that it's quick. You need to immediately capture the hiring team's attention. And so resume writers, we take that into consideration when we're designing the format. So many of you might be using a traditional resume that looks like this, Times New Roman font, which is not easy to read on mobile or on screens, which is why Microsoft Word changed from Times New Roman as their default, because they found that it is not an accessible font for reading on screens. And there's no designs, there's no underlines, no shading, no elements of anything. So it's a missed opportunity for your branding. I mean, there's a couple of brands that have black and white brands. And it's like, wow, like they're typically luxury, high-end brands. But if you look at your resume and you say, nope, it just makes me look dated, then maybe you consider tweaking some things. If you like your black and white resume, great, but you can still have design features that are strategic to keep the reader's eye drawn to the right information. Now, if you're on the other side of the spectrum and have gone into Canva or Etsy and purchased the 2-column resumes that are really overly designed where you can rank your skills, I personally feel that you've been bamboozled. I cannot find things quickly on these resumes. You can't even write substance because of the design. And if you do, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 lines long. And that's a really intimidating paragraph to read. I'm too busy for that. And so I'll look through, and I only have a certain amount of time to get through looking at every resume. If it takes me too long to find the information, it's not going to bode well for you. The substance still has to be there. So although I like design elements, I wouldn't recommend overly designing your resume. So one of the resume designers that are on my team, his name is John. He loves visual elements on resumes. I'm personally a little bit more conservative, but in certain industries, it works really well. And so when you're looking at this resume, there's going to be a couple of things that stand out. These blue boxes, for example, these are his notable achievements. It's going to tell me the highlights of what he accomplished in these roles. His titles stand out to me far more than the company name does. Okay, he has an extensive executive career. This stands out to me. Okay, so what are his featured contributions? And so this might be a little too graphic for you. And if it is, it's okay. You can tone it down a little bit by having something a little bit more conservative, where you're literally just using bold and shading and underlines. This is the same exact content, just designed slightly differently. And then let's see what I want to note here. Um, if you are in a conservative industry, you might want to still add subtle design elements, but not have it be like a total design. And if you're not the best at Microsoft Word, designing something like this is going to be hard anyways. But shading is pretty easy. Underlines are pretty easy. Bold and picking a color, pretty easy. I will say that if you're like, nope, I'm sticking to the black and white, just remember you can subconsciously stand out in a good way. Wow, this looks different. This is modern. Or the undertone can be, this feels dated. This feels out of touch. So just keep that in mind if you're exploring something new.